True story, you know the haps. Let me break it down for the new boys, no cap. They respect the trap, nah fam, I'm free. And freedom ain't free until we all living free. Mindset fix another day, another obstacle. Family feed lies, your dreams is what they robbing you. You gotta make it possible, gotta make it possible, gotta make it possible. Make the future possible. Greetings, everyone. This is me, Rolo C, and welcome to Rolo Runs the City podcast. And I am your host, Rolo. I am glad to be here with you guys today. I'm actually in a situation where I've had to re-record my episode. Let me tell you why. I ended up in a situation when the show actually got edited. It got merged with the episode from last week's vocals onto this week's vocals, which actually featured two Rolos at one time talking over one another. And next thing you know, I had to go ahead and fire the editor who edits my podcast, and that was me. So I went ahead and I fired him, and I will be no longer doing that, and I will have somebody else editing my show. So anywho, I'm glad to be here today, and I was explaining when I actually did the show a couple days ago that I was extremely sore from a 10K run that I actually had done over the weekend. And it was absolutely brutal for me because I hadn't run a 10K in a while, and I've been, trying to stay in shape and train a little bit because I do have the Peachtree Road Race coming up on November 26th, which is Thanksgiving. Unfortunately, it's going to be virtual, but I'm still glad that I'm going to be a part of the event. Last year was the first time that I actually had partake in the actual Peachtree Road Race event. It was the 50th anniversary. And it was a very special event. I was glad to be a part of it, and I was ready to go to be a part of the 51st, but unfortunately COVID had other plans, so therefore we've had to adjust, adapt, and overcome. So really, I was a little bummed out, but at the same token, I'm just glad that God's given me the health to do so and continue on to keep on my running journey. But anywho, speaking of me getting fired as the editor, I always like to just pretty much piggyback off of sports. You guys know how I roll. I'm a big sports buff. I relate a lot of life's happenings and events to sporting events, and I do feel like the two coexist in this wild and crazy world. Much like the general manager of Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots, he was actually considered to be the greatest of all time in reference to coaching. But when it comes to being a GM, sometimes when you notice that you're not having any talent on your team and you're not winning any games, you're going to have to make a crucial choice that actually may be the benefit for the team, and it may be a detriment for you. But at the same token, we all have to check in our ego at the door. So for Coach Bill Belichick, he needs to be fired as the GM because that guy is not bringing any talent in. The GOAT left. He's playing in Tampa and having a lot of success. But anyway, that was just my little spiel real quick on, the sports front. But anyway, you guys already know this is a professional personal development podcast. Anything to self-improve and do the best that you can to actually reach full human optimization. And that goes from, how we interact with our peers, how we treat our minds and our bodies. And you guys already know that. So this week's episode is going to be about why do we burn bridges? The reason why I brought up this actual topic is because I've noticed that self-destructive behavior, we talked about it on the last episode, it's just something that is a part of us in human nature. Sometimes a lot of us are scared to fail, so we self-destruct. And believe it or not, many of us are scared to succeed. We're scared of the success. What will the success bring? How much more responsibility will we have to deal with? And, that could be a scary notion as well. And people will tend to self-destruct at the same time because they don't want to be in a position where they could possibly succeed. And they're accepting only entry level expectations for their lives, not knowing that they can actually go ahead and take full advantage and not only just supervise but totally manage as a whole the success of their being, whether that's professional, whether it's personal. But truth be told, a lot of us self sabotage. So, I think it's a very good I guess we're bridging the gap here with, why does destruction sell, from last week's episode to this week's episode of why do we burn bridges? So many times in this case, you already know we can be our own worst enemy. Not truly valuing great relationships and trying to use, you have people that try to use someone for their own short term living in the moment, personal gain, and not really understand the long-term effect of our personal destructive behavior that occurs with that relationship. So a lot of times we do live for the moment, and many a times we do actually provide zero value to the other person that we're actually taking from, and that would be considered at one point, instead of being a giver, which is somebody who helps others and is a blessing to others, we take. And if we know the laws of reciprocity, whatever you do, whatever you put out into the world, will come back to you. Obviously, karma can be good or bad. So I'd rather be on the good end of that. Not saying that I have never went through bad karma, because at some point in my life, as a young buck coming up, I really wasn't the most genuine person. So you better believe a lot of bad happened to me, because I was putting a lot of bad into the world. And as you grow and as you get older, one thing that you hope that you do is that you mature, you learn from your past mistakes. And I always talk about this all the time. You never know if there's an issue. You can't address an issue if you don't think there is one. So evidently, I seen what was going on. I had to self-evaluate. I had to stop blaming others for my shortcomings and actually see what I was doing wrong. Once I did that, my life drastically changed. So that's just a little info on that aspect. And I know that I've personally destroyed great relationships with friends just to feel as if I were in charge of the whole situation and calling the shots on my own terms, and never actually considered the other person's feelings, not quite putting myself in their shoes. And when you have the mindset of, well, I want to be the big shot caller, and you're going to find out what I feel about this, and you're trying to prove yourself to people who absolutely don't matter, it lets you think to yourself, like, man, am I just doing things to feel good about myself with others' acceptance? And I noticed at that point, I was like, yeah, you know what? I could care less about what people think about me at this point. I'm going to call and do things and call shots on my own terms and stop seeking public validation. That's where that happens. And like I said, it's just, it's something that we learn as we get older. And the only time that we're not learning this as we get older is when we're too set in our ways, and we just really don't want to actually grow, become better. And we always have the stigma of, well, I've always been this way, so I'm just going to be this way. Not a good look. And this is heartening when you have recognized such negative behavior and you do a complete 180 and you wish you could salvage the relationships. However, the damage has been done way beyond repair. And the sad thing as well is that you may not even remember what you have done to someone that got them that angry, because it didn't seem really relevant to you, but it was absolutely unforgivable for that person that you negatively affected. And when you actually reach out to these folks, they'll laugh at you at the notion that you're even reaching out, and they think to themselves, wow, the audacity, and that just actually happens. It really does. It happens where you do try to mend those relationships, but they're not salvageable. And you end up in a situation where you're like,
man, I wonder why this person isn't reaching back out to me. Well, you probably really did them really wrong back in the day. And they no longer want to have anything to do with you. And that's a self-defensive mechanism that we do have. It's like, okay, it goes under the old adage of, you went ahead and you did me wrong. Shame on you. If I allow you to do me wrong again, shame on me. And sometimes you only get one chance with a person. You just only get one chance. And it's absolutely unfortunate because I know personally for myself, I'm no longer the person that I was about 15 years ago. I'm completely different now in reference to how I look at life, a reference to how I revere my family, I revere my children, and how I absolutely revere others that I come into contact with. Just truly appreciating people for who they are, not so much of what they can do for me. So it's absolutely unfortunate that we actually go through this as human beings. And I can understand why people would keep their guard up because they don't want to get burned again. And I totally understand that. But sometimes we do have to not so much let our guard down, but kind of open our arms and have that good state of forgiveness. And if the same thing continues to occur, then it's evident that the person never changed. And you have to keep on moving, really, without that person. So I totally get that. And in many cases, bridges get burned because, the other person on the other side provides zero value to your life. And I'm very intentional with my time. And if I don't learn anything from you and feel like I'm a better person after my encounter with you, there's no reason for us to talk. We clearly have nothing in common. When it comes to a situation where we're only texting each other for birthdays and holidays, it really becomes impersonal at that point in reference to the relationship between, say, me and another person. Once that occurs, it's like, you know what? I feel to myself every second is valuable, and I'm wasting time trying to be cordial to somebody who can care less about how I'm actually doing. Because if you did care about me, you don't so much even have to call me and, reach out and talk to me. But you can shoot me a text, email, whatever, letting me know, hey, it's been a while. I haven't heard from you. Just want to make sure everything's all right. Make sure, see how you're living. Make sure everything's well. And you cut it at that. You let it go. And it's sad because now a lot of people are scared to reach out to one another because I think they have this fear of the monetary question. It's like, yeah, I'm doing fine, but I could be doing better if you sent me $50. You know what I'm saying? And that's not even the case. You know what I mean? It's like, I know one for me, if I'm able to produce and do what I need to do, like, I'm not going to ask you for money, obviously, and I'm not expecting for our conversation to lead where you're asking me for money. Does that make me a little naive thinking that? Maybe. But I like to give people the benefit of the doubt. So that's just me. But I'm a firm believer in if the conversation is genuine and you're absolutely checking on me to make sure that, hey, I haven't heard from you in a while. I just want to see if everything's okay. Just trying to see if you're alive, Just a genuine concern. Then it's a good look. But if that's not the case, and we're just texting on birthdays and holidays, what are we doing here? We're absolutely wasting our time. There's no need to do that. And the thing that absolutely is so, I guess disappointing is the best word to put it. That this happens many times with family members, even immediate family members, siblings. Maybe you guys live in the same town, but don't even talk to one another anymore. And you guys text or do whatever. And I get that. A lot of times people do drift away and they do grow apart because they're taking different paths. But you could always seem to find a way to stay grounded. Like I definitely do like about Mark Cuban, the owner of the Dallas Mavericks. You guys seen him on Shark Tank, the billionaire investor. He actually still runs with his buddies when he's back in town. If I'm not mistaken, I think he's from Pennsylvania, if I'm not mistaken. But whenever he's back in town, he still runs with his old buddies. You know, a lot of these guys, they're blue collar workers. A lot of these guys, they're making, you know, 50, 60,000 a year. They're not billionaires. They're not even millionaires for that aspect. From the aspect of how we're looking at net worth. And the cool thing is that no matter what, Mark always finds a way to keep himself grounded, and he still has a great relationship with his buddies that he went to school with back in the day. And that goes to show you that Mark cares about people in general as a whole. And I think that's why he's blessed when it comes to, you know, his net worth. I mean, he's blessed because of the fact that he can be a blessing to other people, but at the same token, he cares about people. Okay? So I think that's a beautiful thing about Mark Cuban. I think we need more people that have the mindset of, hey man, I'm not better than you, you're not better than me, but we're all in this struggle together. Let's all rise above and let's all, you know, become one, as opposed to really segregating ourselves, whether it be you know, socioeconomic status or even by race for that matter. I mean, we need to look at each other as God's children, and we really do need to lift one another up. And I truly do believe in the old adage from the Bible, love thy neighbor the way you love thyself. I'm a firm believer in that. Of course, you know, you always want to make sure that you set boundaries and things that you're like saying to yourself that I will not sacrifice my standard for this. I'm not going to allow myself or subject myself to getting hurt in this manner, but I'll do the best that I can to love my neighbor the way I love myself. So it's just all about really being a good human being. But you'd be surprised. You know, I think to myself on why people actually burn bridges, and there's a lot of time wasters out there. There really is. You know, that talk a whole lot and have zero substance behind their conversation. You know, we're here to become better. Point blank, period. We're not into public speaking, and when you're ranting and raving at a barbershop and you're trying to appease those that care less about your point because all they want to do is make their own point. I mean, that's really an exercise in futility. We're wasting our time. We're not productive. We're not doing what we're supposed to do. Get up and move on. And I know I didn't segue well into that point, but the point that I'm actually trying to make is that you have many people who don't realize the bridges that are being burned. And they're like, whoa, I wonder why we fell out. I wonder why we don't talk anymore. Much like Mark Cuban, back to my Mark Cuban example, I'm sure when he talks with his buddies, they have great conversations, hey, you know, about family, friends, life experiences, what they've learned. And it's a very productive conversation. Okay? If we're just talking about music and sports and a whole bunch of other things that should be more of a small talk conversation as opposed to the base and the substance of the conversation. If we're talking more about just sports in general, and we're not using that as a side conversation to kind of, you know, just really get something else started of some substance in reference to our convo, then we're really wasting our time. And at the end of the day, you could care less about what I say, and I can care less about what you say, because at the end of the day, we all just want to be heard. When that happens as well, bridges, they absolutely get burned. And it's because at that point, whether it's one party or even both parties for that matter that are partaking in the conversation, realize that they absolutely have nothing in common and don't want to hear each other's point. And then that's when you end up with a situation where your bridge has gotten burned as well. Okay? And I'm very adamant about, being intentional with your time. For me, as a kid, I was shot at in Lawrence, Massachusetts. Luckily, thank God for cars. You jump behind a car, you don't get hit. You thank your you count your blessings and you thank God. And for me, that scared me enough to tell me you need to pick your butt up. And if you're gonna get shot, and if you're gonna get hit when you get shot, you better get a Purple Heart for it. So at that point, my ideology was, yeah, if I'm going to die, I'm going to die for my country. I'm not going to die in this little hood and have my life be lost in vain. So I decided to enlist in the military. So with that being said, what I'm saying is I'm very intentional with my time. Tomorrow is not promised. Okay? I faced another death scare when I ended up in the hospital. I'm a type 1 diabetic. I ended up in the hospital. I lost about, I would say, 50 pounds in the matter of 12 days. Didn't know what was wrong with me. And turns out that, I woke up, I was in the ICU. And I had almost died from my diabetes. And I had went almost 2 weeks without getting evaluated, getting any treatment or anything. I mean, I had no saliva. I was just completely messed up. And I know I'm getting a little bit off topic, but this is something personal that I'm mentioning because I want people to understand the severity of being intentional with your time. Tomorrow is not promised for anybody. So we need to make sure while we're here, we do the best that we can to become the best version of ourselves. Whether you believe in God, Allah, Buddha, the universe, whatever's your liking, whatever your creator you feel is, do the best that you can to do their work while you are down here. So I'm very intentional with my time. Okay? And make sure you're intentional with your words and bring value to your relationships. Don't think of the moment just being selfish. Think long term. Apply the golden rule. Do to others as you want done to you. We can definitely build a better world if we learn not to burn our bridges, which allows us to keep the foundation of our personal and professional businesses strong. I'm telling you, we really do need to be intentional with our time, and we need to always make sure that we're providing value at all time, whether if it's personal or whether if it's business. No matter what, you want to be considered an asset. You do not want to be a liability. Okay? And I'll give a quick apology real quick. And I'll tell you why. If I've upset you and did you wrong in the past, I do sincerely apologize. I really do. This is my apology to all of those that I have done wrong. But the first step in recognizing the issue is knowing that there is an issue. You take accountability and you deal with it. I'm absolutely forever grateful, very grateful for every person that I've encountered because I've done one or two things. I've learned from on what to do. And then, of course, I've learned what not to do. So I greatly do appreciate every person that I've come in encounter with because life has been my best teacher. Experience is the best school that you can ever attend. So what I want people to understand is I want people to make sure that they're intentional with their time, and make sure not only they're intentional with their time, but making sure that they're not burning any bridges that are actually worth having. So not only are we not wasting our time, but we're making sure we're providing value. And as we provide value, value will attract value. That's just the law of the land. If you want to attract losers, be a loser. Sorry, that's as blunt as I can put it. If you want to attract losers, be a loser. If you want to attract movers and shakers and producers and winners, then I suggest you be a mover, a shaker, a producer, and a winner. It just is what it is at this point. But I'm very grateful for you guys listening to me this week. I do apologize. You know, I was dropping shows on every Friday, and I said, okay, well, let's try to switch it up, and let's go ahead and just drop the show on Monday. Dropped the show on Monday, and then I had a editorial hiccup, so the show just got dropped a couple of days later. But like I said, I'm very grateful that you guys are listening. Feel free to reach out to me, you know, through email at rolorunsthecity@gmail.com. That is rolorunsthecity@gmail.com. And feel free to hit me up. If you're listening to me on YouTube, feel free to subscribe, like, hit that notification bell, so then that way once I drop a new video, you guys will be the first ones to know. And let's definitely grow together. Well, anywho, I'm about to sign out of here. I'm very grateful for your time, your listenership. You guys take care. Godspeed. We'll see you next week, and we'll try to be on time. Take care. One love.